So my background is in surveying, photogrammetry. It's what I've done all my life. It's my passion. It is kind of who I am. Moved into doing my own thing in '99 when I'd pretty much pinnacled at what I could do at Intergraph. The UAVs weren't here yet. The small format cameras weren't here. Digital cameras were just kind of coming on. They were, even the commercial grade ones were like, a megapixel, and they were junk. So it was way too early to do anything that way. So I actually bought the system I made at Intergraph. It went into doing service work until 2010, when this guy, my son, he graduated from Purdue, which is where I also went for graduate school. And he was in geotechnical engineering with an emphasis on sensor technology. So he fit in with me. I couldn't let him go to work somewhere else. I didn't spend all that money to educate somebody to be like this and have him go work for a competitor. So he had to work for me. He didn't have a choice. So that's kind of who I am. I'm in Summerville, Alabama. You've never heard of it. You may have heard of Huntsville, not Texas. We're not the prison, okay? Huntsville, Texas is the prison. Huntsville, Alabama is, does anybody know what Huntsville, Alabama is? Yeah, what's that? It's the smartest city in the world, okay? These guys might think they are here, but no, it's Huntsville. We got it on the map. No, it's because it's got the highest, or did have, highest PhD per capita in the world, and now I think it's probably just in the country. I don't know, but a lot of geeks and nerds and dweebs all over. Okay, they're all over, and a lot of them are like me. They live out in the country and have sheep and goats and cows and chickens and ducks and stuff, and then they go to work and do rocket science on the Arsenal. Okay, Redstone Arsenal, Marshall Space Flight Center, the space camp, the movie, whatever else. We have all that locally, so that's what draws people to Huntsville. And I got drawn there by Intergraph after grad school. So that's pretty much who we are. And so when Daniel came on with me, we wanted to do LiDAR. And at that time, the aerial LiDAR systems, were starting at $1 million. Okay, starting at $1 million. They were big, had to have an airplane. Okay, we're not going to go down that market. So we looked at the mobile mapping, and those systems were all $1 million too, unless you wanted ones that were like generating point clouds like this thick, which I'm a surveyor, that thick just doesn't cut it, okay? So we decided, hey, I've always been a builder, he's a builder, let's build a system. So we built a system, and it's just continually evolved from there, and we've made it smaller and smaller and lighter until we finally got to the UAV market. And our philosophy is the same as like micro. It's not just work smarter, it's work smarter and harder. It's the whole farmer's mentality. If it's not hard, you're not doing it right. Okay, so that's kind of how we're doing it. And we also go with this philosophy too, is you're not buying a yellow cordless drill, okay, DeWalt. You're buying something that'll drill holes or make holes. That's what you really want, it's the hole maker. So same thing with us. We're trying to make the tool that you need to get the job done. So what do? I'm a surveyor. We measure and we map. That's what our objective is. And I'm sure that's what a lot of you want to do. In fact, I want to know, how many are surveyors in here? Anybody? Oh my gosh, we got some surveyors. All right. And engineers, civil engineers? Okay. A few actually overlapped. The Bentley guy doesn't count back there, by the way. I saw your presentation, very good. Let's see. Anybody doing, you guys are probably all doing imaging with the UAVs and using Pix40 or Agisoft or something like that. How many doing LiDAR? Mobile or UAV? UAV? Okay. Anybody doing mobile LiDAR in here? Okay, back there. How many of you have used like Inertial Explorer or POS from Trimble for generating trajectories? Okay, same guys. Okay. All right. So just kind of get an idea where we're at. How many use RTK on a regular basis? Okay. Okay. How many can spell RTK? No. So kind of give me an idea where we're headed here. So as a surveyor and a photogrammetrist and LiDAR kind of guy, the whole thing we want to do is we want to measure so we can build roads, so we can put up buildings, so we can build a dam, so we can do a bridge. And that's what our whole objective is. And so we're always looking for better tools to do that kind of stuff. And that's why we're here. So, you know, you got the whole cartography scene. They could sit here and talk about just maps, the paper and electronic maps for days, actually. I just want to let you know that, you know, we work on paper and electronic and 3D and things like TerraGo and, you know, 3D PDFs and things that are smart, take with you in the field. Okay, the next question is, what are we mapping most of the time? Most of the time we're mapping the natural world. And unless we're in Phoenix, you know, or White Sands or something like that, it's usually vegetated in North America. Most of North America is covered with trees and grass, which causes problems with the photogrammetry solutions, especially with the UAV photogrammetry solutions, because you're measuring grass that's this tall. Okay, I did a job in Amarillo, Texas. I looked at it on Google Earth and I said, oh, this will be easy. It's flat as a pancake and I don't see a tree anywhere. I got there and it was true. It was flat as a pancake, but the grass was this tall for 15 miles to the field they went through. And it took like 6 hours to do it because I thought I could do it on a car, but the fields are 1 mile by 3 miles. And I'm going right through the middle and the gates are all 1.5 miles away on either side of the field. But everything's covered with grass, everything's covered with trees, but bridges aren't built on tops of trees and tops of grass. And so we want to get the ground. And in fact, it's more than just mapping that needs to know that too. It's Jurassic Park. I've talked to the people who were responsible for a lot of the CGI for that. And they're like, we need the surface of this hill in Hawaii. We need to know where the ground is, not the grass, because dinosaurs don't run on the top of grass. Okay, so that was important to them. It sounded kind of trivial, but okay. So that's going to lead into why we're doing the LiDAR stuff, because the imaging kind of has a problem with that. And so, okay, so how do we collect good map data? Well, it depends on what you're mapping. If you're mapping, you know, an acre, or you're mapping 50 acres, or you're mapping 500 acres, or you're mapping a county, or you're mapping a state, what are you mapping? That drives the technology that we're going to use. And if you notice I don't really follow what it's saying up there, it's because I don't. So it's you can read that, you know. But so things have changed. You know, things are changing. They've been changing fast during my career. I mean, it started. You know, I heard the guy yesterday talking about a T2 theodolite. Okay, I use the T2 theodolite. I use it transit. Most of you probably never even seen one unless you went to a museum somewhere. But things have changed fast. Used to be everything had to be done with surveying and then the photogrammetry, which started back in like World War I, really. But then it really started pushing into real mapping like in the 50s. It took a lot of control points to control the photos for traditional aerial photogrammetry, because there was no airborne GPS and there was no IMU data. So every pair of photos to see in 3D had to have control points. And it would literally, like map a county, would be thousands of control points to map a county. Great jobs for surveyors, okay? Because no legal problems, because you're not doing boundary surveys. It's just all XYZ stuff, gravy train jobs, okay? That was the way that used to be. But then along comes GPS, and it changed a lot of that. We dropped the amount of control required. And then along comes better IMUs, which also helped that. But then along in 2000, right around 2000, just give or take a few years, depending on who you talk to, comes LiDAR, which actually had been on the market, not on the market, but been in existence since the 50s. But it took all the other things to kind of come together to shrink the components, to give us GPS. So we have continuous direct georeferencing, you know, GPS and IMU data. Along comes LiDAR and all the photogrammetry firms who are out there mapping with imaging and have a team of 20, 30 stereo operators sitting there digitizing all day long and drawing contours. They all of a sudden got wiped away literally in like 2 years. So the photogrammetry firms all started buying these $1 million LiDAR systems to go in airplanes. And now they could go out and just be collecting bare Earth data straight up. We may have to do some editing, but no massive amount of dropping points on the ground in 3D. So that's just a little bit of history on the level of where the LiDAR has gone. And so LiDAR, somebody asked me earlier, your dad asked me earlier, what is LiDAR? And he answered, he Googled it, of course. You could tell millennial right away. Light detection and ranging. Okay, LiDAR, radar, it's just a different wavelength that we're using to get to the answer. But LiDAR, I consider it part of photogrammetry actually, because it's a non-contact measurement using electromagnetic media. So I don't care if it's LiDAR or radar or IFSAR or microwave or RGB or near infrared, it's all non-contact measurement. So it's all a photogrammetry problem. It's a kind of a semantic issue. But LiDAR itself is distance and ranging. So it's basically polar coordinates, if you remember that. So it's getting X, Y, Z and an intensity at the moment, unless using flash LiDAR, which we don't really talk about. So it's getting X, Y, Z and intensity, and it gives you like a black and white image, something like that. Actually, this was a shot of a decommissioned steel mill that they're getting ready to bury, probably to become one of those brown sites the guy was talking about earlier. So why would you use LiDAR? Well, it can see through the grass. That's the biggest one. It doesn't really see through the, yeah, it does see through the grass, but the biggest thing is in the bottom, you're getting the tops of grass, tops of trees, and you're getting the ground. That's important. Okay, so you're getting everything in between. But it's also very fast. I don't have to have operators sitting there. I don't have to have a team of 20 operators sitting there measuring all the time. 2 or 3 can do the same thing a lot faster now with the right software. It's actually more accurate in many respects. It's more certain and more reliable because these stereo operators had to be trained. You usually we train them for like 6 months so they get their eyeballs literally trained so they can see in 3D good enough. You can see 3D when you go to Disney or an IMAX, you want to see a 3D thing, but that's not the same as what a stereo operator does. They can see very accurately. It takes a while to train them. We also use it for accessibility, which is why I had this picture here. This is one of our early systems, actually our first commercial system. It has the Velodyne scanner on it there. And you see I got it on a piece of 80/20 on my 17-foot Sportster Sea-Doo, and I'm on a river. It's kind of hard. As a surveyor, mapping shorelines is a pain in the neck. It means wading through mud, fighting briars. It's never a friendly environment. It's so much better when you can put it on a boat and just cruise along the side. Okay, it'd be better if you can put it on a UAV and cruise along the side, or a tethered balloon or something like that. So obviously this system was too big to put on a UAV. Okay, the other thing, of course, you know, it's safer than surveying. You're not walking back and forth across the street all the time, not getting run over by a car. It's data rich. I mean, there's tons of information there. Okay, and you don't have to go back to get it. You may have to go back to the data to look at it, but it's in the data. Daylight insensitive, we don't care if you scan it during daytime or at night. Doesn't matter if there's clouds overhead or not. Clouds, if you guys deliver ortho photos to a customer, I think the UAV market's a lot less demanding. They're not so picky a lot of times about clouds being in the imagery, but in aerial photogrammetry, they're very picky. You do not fly when there are clouds in the sky. But the LiDAR, we don't care. Scan day, scan night, doesn't matter. If you scan when it's raining, you're just going to have a lot of noise. You'll still have data on the ground, but you'll have an awful lot of noise to clean up. But why wouldn't you use it? Well, it's generally more expensive. You know, like I said, the systems I looked at cost $1 million. That's a little bit expensive. At $1 million, an instrument, you're looking at making $80,000 a month for 36 months before you break even. That was a hard one for me to swallow. I knew a lot of people, but I didn't know that many people. The other thing is, some people would say, it's just too much data. But those days are gone. The days of too much data are gone. Imagery dwarfs what we get from the LiDAR data right now. Okay, so how is it used? There's 2 basic modes. Static, which is a whole other market than we're looking at here. You know, it's all the whole BIM market, building information stuff, indoor mapping, extremely urban areas, highly complex piping situations. That'd be the tripod scanning, and it would be something like the Faro scanner or the Leica scanners or Trimble scanners. There's a bunch of them out there, and that market's changing fast. You see the new Leica Black 360 just came out. Well, they advertised it. Probably won't be out till next summer, but a lot of things changing there. And then the other way, of course, is the mobile scanning. And I just want to show you real quick here. So we got mobile on a car, on a gyro plane, which if you've never been in one, you should go ride one. And then on a UAV. Mobile's a lot faster, a lot safer. You're not intruding on anything, which is important. To some people, we scanned islands that were their wildlife sanctuaries, you know, and they didn't want to use a helicopter to make too much noise or whatever. Well, we used a helicopter actually, but we could be far enough away that we weren't invading the nest and we weren't a swamp buggy going through the area. We weren't a survey crew walking out there. And of course, we can mount it on the car, boat, rail, ATV, helicopter plane, gyroplane, whatever. If it moves, we can mount it. We can put it on your back if you want to. I don't recommend it. It gets tiring after a very short period of time. Even 5 pounds where it doesn't belong is a pain. Okay, so what are the parts that make up a mobile LiDAR system? There are 3 basic parts. There's the trajectory, okay, then there's the sensors themselves, and then there's the software. The trajectory, without the trajectory, we pretty much have nothing, okay? And that's why, even though LiDAR was around in the 50s, it didn't really come into aerial until like 2000, because we needed GPS to be available everywhere all the time. Like somebody said yesterday, I think it was, they said like, I can't remember which guy it was, but he said like they were in Saudi Arabia and he had like 5 hours a day where he had GPS. Okay, we used to have to worry about that. We go to the website and look, and Trimble has a website where you can go and see the GPS availability, but it's available, okay? All the satellites are up, GLONASS is up, other constellations are up. I virtually never go look at the availability anymore. So we need the trajectory, and that all comes in with the INS. You'll hear these letters, IMU and INS, Inertial Navigation System, which is the GPS or GNSS, which is the XYZ positioning, and then the IMU, the Inertial Measurement Unit, and it has accelerometers and gyrometers and everything, magnetometers, together make up your INS. So they tell us where we are and where we're looking at any point in time. And they also include time stamping, which is absolutely critical to everything we do, is everything has to be time stamped very, very accurately. It doesn't take much of a difference. A little bit of latency, like in an aerial camera, you're going at 150 miles an hour and you're clicking off images every 10 or 15 seconds or however many seconds it is for your overlap. If you're off by, 50 milliseconds, you just moved too much, okay, for us. So all that kind of stuff really matters. And even with us on a car at 50 miles an hour, you're 73 feet a second. So you say, oh, I only need to be within half a second. That's 36 feet. That's way too much. So you got to be accurate. And then the other part is the sensors themselves. So in our case here, we're really looking at the LiDAR sensors, but the cameras is just as important. And then there's all the software that ties it all together. So moving right along here, I'm going to jump in. Here's some data. Do you think that was flown with a UAV over a ball field? Definitely not done with autopilot. Okay. And what we did was we just plotted out the data. I think every second we plotted out little epics showing us where we're at. We can click on anything. We can find out the lat long elevation, the quality of the point, blah, 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 blah. Okay, all the things we need to know. If you're doing this kind of stuff, this stuff is important because everything you do hangs off of this. If the customer asks you for a report, one of the reports you're going to give them will be some sort of statistics of the trajectory. Okay. Because everything is dependent on the trajectory. I do want to add, you can use SLAM, which is, if you don't know what that is, it's simultaneous localization and mapping, which doesn't require GPS or IMUs, depending on which solution you're getting. But SLAM has its own set of problems with it as well. It's really limited in scope. There's a lot more processing time. We have a hard enough time, believe it or not, just using GPS to get the results that people want. Everybody thinks GPS is the panacea, the answer to everything. GPS is not perfect. You can drive up and down a road, just if you ever had your RTK system or anything, drive up and down a road for a while, or put it on a rail, actually be better, and go up and down a road, and you're going to see that over time, you'll get one pass that'll be, could be literally 6 inches different than all the rest of the data for whatever reason. The whatever reason is the satellites are hauling tail, okay, through the sky, and they're going in and out of sight. So the calculations are changing. Okay, here, I don't know how to do this. Let's see. I gotta figure out how to do this thing. Here is some Velodyne data. Make Harris feel good. some Velodyne data that we scanned. I just want to show you. So this is out of VeloView or the DSR program, I can't remember which. So this is what the real-time data capture looks like as you're driving or flying. I'm not sure what we were doing here. Probably flying, it looks like. And so you can see the things rotating. You can see the building kind of come in and out. And it's showing each laser line. And it's not all the data. It's a subsample of the data. And it's just showing you a live view. It's not oriented to anything or anything. It's just the distance range. And we can have intensity on it. Okay. So that's, and the nice thing about this particular scanner, and that's why I love the Velodyne system, is those multiple lasers make a big difference. One laser really limits you. Let's see. I'll do this one here too. So of course we have imagery to go along with it. This is using the Ladybug 5 camera from Point Grey, which is now owned by FLIR. Very nice camera. Before this camera came out, there was Ladybug 3. We didn't like the Ladybug 3, so we built our own camera using the guts of a GoPro, basically. So we had a 7-eyed camera. We could make 10 megapixel panoramics video. Took a lot of processing to do that. But the Ladybug 5 came out, and it captures really nice street view imagery. These guys were looking for, they're mapping all the utility poles and all the lines that come off of it. And so LiDAR is a perfectly good use for this. It's much faster than using just imagery. Imagery will have a hard time getting utility lines if you want to actually get the real position of them, but the imagery helps immeasurably. So that's the one thing. The imagery, it's not a photogrammetry versus a LiDAR issue. It's a photogrammetry and LiDAR, or I should say LiDAR and imagery together are the answer. They're very synergistic. So we generally try to capture both. And if we can capture them both at the same time, so much the better. When you start doing this stuff, it's like anything else. If you buy a new car, you notice everybody has your car. When you start mapping, looking for utility lines, you really start noticing that there's a spider web over our heads all the time. It's just incredible. Of course, if you're flying a UAV, you find out really quick there's a spider web over your head all the time. Here's just another little example of what you can do with a LiDAR. This is from our friends at Orbit. They're one of the leading software vendors. I mean, there's a bunch of vendors, but Orbit seems to be kind of at the forefront for collecting, extracting the data, the line work data, the CAD, the Esri, shape files, Autodesk format, microstation format data. You need a telephone pole or light pole, whatever. Here, they have ways to go into the data and get it out really quick. The whole thing is without tools like this, whatever we do with our hardware and software to generate point clouds, it's useless. Okay, if it's not actionable data that you can actually turn around and put into something you can deliver to the client, it doesn't matter. And so having good tools is huge. And I'll tell you, when I started in 2010 with my own business doing the LiDAR, the software was terrible. Okay. I bought one of the, I think I had the second Faro scanner in the United States. I went to a conference. All the vendors were there. I scanned the room. I gave them, every one of them, one scan of the room, and it broke everybody's software with the one scan, because the Faro scanner at that time, it could scan 1 million points a second. I scanned for like 45 seconds to get the whole room. So I had a lot of data. Their programs were set to handle like, 5 or 10 million points at, maybe. It just totally killed them. But things have changed, fortunately. Otherwise, we would not be talking about LiDAR. If the data was so hard to extract, we wouldn't be doing it. Just a little more history on us, I guess. We actually build the systems, and we use the system. We try not to use them too much because we want to sell them. We use them more to prove that the system works and to improve the system. It's not enough just to have the customer feedback. We need to actually use it ourselves. So we took a little jaunt down to Brazil, and we scanned from Sao Paulo to Corumbá. I'm not sure if I said that right. 1,000 miles through the southern edge of the Amazon jungle. It took us 3 weeks riding in this godforsaken little car, 105 degrees every day. He really liked it because he's several inches taller than me. The seats were just about big enough to put half your rear end on it, and it went up just about to your belt line. And the rails are really rough. So it was tough. And every day we had to take our scanner, which at that time weighed like 35 pounds, because we believed at the time that we had to have this really super rigid framework, which we did have, but we didn't know quite how rigid or how much material we needed. So we built this system. It had the Velodyne 32 on it, one of the very first ones. It weighed about 35 pounds, and every day at dawn, we'd have to climb on top of that to put it up there, and every night we have to take it down at dusk. Okay, it's only 35 pounds. And the reason we had to do that was because in Brazil, as the guys told us, the joke was, they'll steal everything but the paint off that car. Okay, so we had to remove it every day. Do that for 3 weeks, and you find out that 35 pounds start weighing a lot. And I was the oldest guy there, and I was the one who had to climb on top every day. So, okay, so we shrunk it. But we just had to put the system to a test. I just put this one here up here just kind of to show two things, actually. One, we had the same system. This was back in 2011, using the Velodyne scanner and a good INS inside and the Faro scanner on it. So we mobilized the Faro scanner, so we can do multi-sensor, however many we want. I don't have a camera up there right now, but we have cameras too. But we got to this little town in North Dakota, there were 0 rental cars. And the engineering firm we were working, not for, but they were working alongside us, had a whole bunch of cars, but they hated our guts because they could see that we were going to scan this 25-block area in an hour, which they were going to have a survey crew spend 6 weeks at least collecting the data. So they're like, you're not renting a car from us, you're borrowing a car. So I laid in bed at night thinking, what am I going to do? I said, oh my gosh, 1995 U-Haul. So ran down the road a mile, rented a van, it was great, perfect. The key there is very versatile. We can move from vehicle to vehicle, okay, even back when the system was big. We had the system airborne with the Faro and the Velodyne in early 2011, okay, on a powered parachute. I had never been on one before. It's quite the thrill. Very interesting. You really find out that flying over buildings does make a big difference if it's hot out. We would be flying along at like, I don't know, 200 feet, and we get over this, like a Target distribution center, and that heat from that roof, it would just, woof, we'd all of a sudden go up. It's kind of a thriller, but they really are cool until a thunderstorm comes around, then they're not so cool. But we had the thing mounted on it. Actually, it was on the side. We did a landfill. It was very interesting. So I got friends that have photogrammetry firms with LiDAR and imaging, and they did the same landfill, and they just get the volume of the landfill. When we're done, we have every rut from the dozers, tracks, every vent, every little thing you wanted to see, it was all there. They could not get that. They could see it in the imagery, but they couldn't get it out of the LiDAR cloud. Just real quick, we had 2 Faros, a Velodyne, and a 360 camera on a Chicago Metro rail train. We also had it on a high-speed train. This is the best train I've ever been on in my life. We had the system up there going 110 miles an hour one day and 110 miles the next day in driving rain. The system works. We just want to prove that it actually works, so we do all different kinds of things like that. Just so you know, that train was so new. We put this tarp on just because we weren't sure because it was raining so hard. When we took the duct tape off, it ripped the paint off with the train. So, it was kind of a new train. We use helicopters as well. So we build our system so we can take it off of whatever we're on and put it on a helicopter. I just take a piece of 80-20, stick it to the back of the pilot, co-pilot seats. It's all perfectly legal. And away we go. Doesn't have to be complicated. Okay, so we moved up from the powered parachute. We went to a gyroplane, George Jetson. This is George Jetson at his finest, okay? This is so cool. I did 10 quarries that were separated by about 130 miles in 2 hours. Okay, the entire quarry, each one, it takes like a minute and a half to scan the entire quarry. If we had done it with a UAV, we had been there for like a week because they're always out in the roads that take forever to get there. But it's just another good solution. So the point is, you want the system that it can be moved from vehicle to vehicle. If you're doing one quarry, it's great to use a UAV. You're doing a bunch of them, think about another solution. And of course, this is the you're not going to ruin my back option. I'm putting on my garden wagon and I'm dragging it because then I can stop and have a sandwich without having to do anything. We actually mapped the sidewalk along Hoboken, New Jersey with that. So this is where we're at now. We shrunk the system down to this. That's the whole system. Little antenna, box, Velodyne, battery. All Wi-Fi controlled, of course. And this is it. Okay. Now I'm going to embarrass Harris over here. This was a perfectly good non-functioning scanner until it became even less functioning. When a bad UAV decided to take it for a ride into a tree, so it has a dent inside. But basically, this is the box. Okay, we can put any number of different inertial navigation systems inside of it. So we got the scanner, and then the computer and everything else goes inside here. We just have the little T-bar, if you can see it there. You can hook that onto anything. We have a bunch of little different plates you can hook it onto, carbon fiber, I don't care what you stick it on. But we use this as like our universal mount because it's light, it's tough. If you put it on a car or on a dozer or something, you need it, it's gonna vibrate hard. There's a lot worse environments than a UAV. You needed something that'll last, and this will last. We got a little locking pin, of course. So we can take it off of the vehicle and move it from vehicle to vehicle real fast because the battery's separate, comes with it, everything goes, and we can use it in this position. We can flip it over and use it in that position, and we can flip it in this position, that way, so you can put it on the front of the car, the back of the car, the UAV pointing forward, backwards, whatever. Or you can tilt it at 45. We don't care. I mean, we do have to know, we do ask that question when we start, but that's basically how it works. This weighs like 5 pounds. And then we have this one here too. So I'm not really trying to stop and talk about these guys so much, but I just want you to see that I actually do have units. And these are, well, that one was semi-functioning if the thing would still spin. This is using a Velodyne puck. And actually this is the puck light. I only know that because we print them blue if they're the light, because you cannot tell the differences there. There's no way to tell the difference between them. So it weighs like 1 kilogram. Total, ready to go. This is using the INS and the computer and everything's inside this as well. Okay. And it's, again, same mounting mechanism. And these are just 2 of the systems. We have more, and I'll talk about that maybe I get going here. So, yeah, here we go. So there it is. Those are the 2 I just showed you. And here's another one. This is the Quantergy scanner. We're about to release that guy. Only over the last 12, 15 months I've been working on it. But it's finally coming out, so you've probably seen them in the news. They keep talking about the Quantergy system, whatever. It hasn't really been quite there. And if you read the literature, they say $500, and even Velodyne has said the $500 thing. But you got to read the fine print. Those are in quantities now of 100,000. Yes, some hugely large number. Yes. So here are a couple of the implementations of the scanners now on M600. So I've investigated many scanners over the last several years, and I don't like to say how much money I've wasted. It hasn't really been a waste. I learned lots of things I didn't really care about knowing anything about. All the ESC stuff and blah, 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 you know, all the guts of the UAVs. To me, it's just another vehicle that flies, okay? It's great. But, so I chased after a lot of them, and we had looked at the S1000, but I didn't really quite trust it until like last year, February. I had a guy come in. It was meticulous. He was a cinematographer, and he used a Red Epic on it, you know. And he checked everything over every time he took off, and he flew our system, made some great videos for us. And I'm like, okay, you kind of sold me. But when the M600 came out, I was sold. Okay, I mean, the performance of it is phenomenal. Our system doesn't even phase the M600. I mean, the heavy system is 5 or 6 pounds loaded up as much as you're going to do to it. Fly is real steady. You see there we got the A3 Pro on it. We really like the DRTK. All it takes is being by one iron ore mound once to find out that the DRTK is worth having. The extra $4,600 it's a good investment. Again, the 2 systems, so the Quantergy and the puck, but it can be any of them. They're all interchangeable, like I say. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about data. So here's the job we did. This is what the KML of the area. It's just a big field with some retention ponds, but it's one of these reclamation projects. This is in Tennessee, so we went and scanned it. I think that's like the better part of a mile long, I believe. Scanned it, and so you see there, this black striping here and these things are actually water. Okay, it's a manufactured ditch. And here is the LiDAR data again, but with height colorized. Okay. And by the way, this field, let me back up a little bit. You can't really see it here because it's plowed, you can see tracks. But the grass in this field is about waist high, okay? And it's real thick grass. It's that saw grass. You wouldn't want to go running through it. Here's the same data now, thinned. I can probably to like a 1 foot grid or 2 foot grid or something like that. And again, height colorized. And there's the final result. This has been bare earth extracted, so we removed all the vegetation. Of course, we still keep stuff around the edges because, like anything around the edges, it's rough around the edges. Okay, but the data inside here, you can see the ditch, you can see the little roadway, all bare earth extracted. The data is, within 500-600 of a foot. Yes, that's captured with this system actually. So that was with this. It wasn't on the M600 at the time, but it was out with the scanner. How many lines? Okay, so I'll stop just for a second, just explain just a little bit. So this guy here is 700,000 points a second, spins at up to 20 hertz, okay, out to a range of like 120 meters, 120 meters max. It's in a 41 degree field of view, so it's like 1.33 degrees between each laser line. What else do I want to say about it? Very nice. I really like it. 1.5 to 2 centimeter. 1.5 to 2 centimeter precision. This guy here is 300,000 points a second in a plus or minus 15 degree field of view, so 30 degrees. And it's like double. So it's 3 to 4 centimeter type accuracy. And by the way, on all these systems, we store all the data on a little USB drive. So it's a little thumb drive, 128 gigabyte thumb drive. So when you're done, pull it off, plug it in a computer. It's not a big deal. No data transfer problems. All it takes is 3 or 4 weeks in Brazil on a crappy train to teach you need to be able to offload the data fast. None of this downloading files via Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or anything like that takes way, way too long. And SD cards work nice, but they tend to fail more. And actually, all these systems have internal memory built into them too. So if you forget the USB drive, not that any of us would ever do that, but you can still keep on scanning. Okay. And that's also why the batteries are like they are too. So if you do forget the battery, you can go to AutoZone and buy a lawnmower battery, and away you go. Well, we use a variety of different ones. So you can use Raspberry Pi. It depends on what scanner it is. You can use the Pi or Odroid. A bunch of them that take the same form factor as a Pi. Yeah. Yes. We can use an Intel NUC as well. It depends. So if we use, it won't fit in that box. It's a slightly bigger box. Probably. I mean, we can only support so many different hardware platforms that they change so fast. And once we get one that works, it's hard to make it work on just a standard Raspberry Pi. The Pi 3 was a lot easier, but the Pi 2 and Pi were quite a challenge. It's a lot of data volume for it. So here is the little spot right down the road from us. And I just want to show you like this area right here, solid trees, okay? Big trees. My brother actually owns this property. And so he went out, he works for Autodesk. And by the way, he used to work for MicroStation. That guy used to go back there. He used to work for Bentley. But he went out there and bush hogged his land. So he scalped some of it, and they left some of it taller, and some of it was like, so he had several different heights, okay? And then we had the trees. And you can see, that is just solid trees, okay? We did Pix4D on this stuff too, and it's like 0 points in the trees, 0. Okay, and they're like 60 feet tall. Okay, so what we did, we classified the data, okay, using Global Mapper. Global Mapper is a great little program. $1,000 for the LiDAR module and the whole kit and caboodle. I mean, it's hard to beat it. It can handle huge data sets. It couldn't before we kind of got to it, but we've thrown some 4 and 10 billion point files at it. So those are billion point files, and it can handle them just fine. So it can colorize, it can classify really well. So it classified out the woods. And you see a lot of green in here with the woods, okay, and all the vegetation. So let me show you what that did here. That same area. I mean, this is one of the big things that, this is why surveyors love this. If you do topo work and you look at where you've got to go, you think there's got to be another way. I was telling this guy, about 2 months ago, we bought 40 acres of land more, like I need to become some sort of land baron. Right between me and my son's house, we bought 40 more acres. It had been clear cut 10 years ago. So now it's solid briars and brush anywhere from 6 to 20 feet tall. There you go, you see that. So we went, before they sold it, they ran a forestry brusher through the property. Okay, so it looked like somebody had mowed a yard that had grass this tall, you know, but then mowed it really nice. So we went and scanned that. Scanning that 40 acres took us about 11 minutes, okay, because we really hammer it really heavy because it's so thick. Took us about 40 minutes to scan it. I'm going to run that right by you just one more time here while I'm talking. Scanned it in 11 minutes, processed it through Global Mapper in about 2 hours. We contoured it. So you can see, if we showed you the Pix4D data, it would have been just slammed with contours that right here as it came into the woods. And actually, turns out that this obviously at some point in time had been a farm with just open fields, because there's like 2 berms in here where they had done some farm work that walking through the woods you couldn't tell it was like that. Okay, so here is a ball field we kind of use as our test site area, fun area, to test things. You know, a ball field, you know, their fields they're groomed inside here, not so groomed outside. Although the 2 old men that work there would always say, no, it's always groomed. And it's got a drainage ditch coming through here. So we kind of use this as a good little test site. There's just some more images of it. We've done a Pix4D solution on this and scanning. We went through one evening and collected all these points using our RTK system as our proof that everything's good. Just collecting those points took us like a couple hours. I mean, it's just a lot of walking, okay? And we're not even collecting the featured data. It took a lot longer than I would like it to be. In the end, I think it's a video here. No, that's not a video. Okay. I don't know which ones are videos. Can't remember. I don't want to be in the video. Just show you real quick some of this stuff. The LiDAR data picks up everything, and then we run it through with Pix4D. We register the data together, and then we colorize it in Global Mapper. It's all very affordable, very easy to do. We actually use the LiDAR data since it's all directly georeferenced. We use it as the control for the imagery. So we literally in Global Mapper, we bring up the images and the LiDAR data and pick out our control points, use us as a control. And we feed all that stuff back into Pix4D, all comes out georeferenced, colorize it, Global Mapper, done. It's not complicated. We've thought about like writing papers about it, but we're like, why? Use it and you'll figure it out. It takes about 30 minutes. Pretty simple. Same data again here. So elevation colorized, and then just here's a surface model. So you can see the diamonds and everything. So it can do a lot. Okay. The systems don't have to cost a fortune. Our systems, just so you know, they range from like 40K to 114K for the whole thing. I mean, you can pay 200K, you can pay 300K, you know, whatever you want to do. The number of applications that you can service with this are just daunting. This little guy here, I target this guy more for like archaeologists. It's real simple. Archaeology, not that archaeologists are simple, but it's for archaeology where they don't really care where it's at necessarily. They know where they're at. They're at site A, okay, or site B or whatever. They know what that is. Whether you're off by a meter or 2 doesn't matter to them, or 10 centimeters or whatever. That's immaterial. They're looking for a step edge. They're looking for, is there a fork there? Was there something unknown? I really should ask you guys questions now, shouldn't I? Now that you're looking directly into the sunlight. Let the interrogation begin. But good for like forensics, not forensics, but law enforcement. So you got an accident on the highway, and you'd like to scan it, I mean, I've gone out and scanned those things. Fortunately, I've never done it while the accident was still there. You know, I had to go out and scan afterwards. They got the things all painted around the tires and everything. But with this, a law enforcement officer literally could, like the blue bubble, stick it on top of his car and drive by it, but he probably won't be able to drive by it. So you either have to have like an ATV or a UAV. So you put it like on an M600. I'd say pull it out of your trunk, but you know that would be a joke. You don't pull the M600 out of your trunk. Huh? Yeah, unless it's a Lincoln. It would be one big trunk. But you could put it on your UAV, and he could pop it up, you know, first person view it, fly it down, fly it over to the site, come back, done. He's recorded everything. Okay, it's 2 in the morning. Not gonna do that with imagery. Okay, and he's got the data. I mean, I've often thought about volunteering with the local law enforcement. Hey, I'll come scan your scenes, but when do they happen? They happen at night, so don't call me. I'm not coming. But that's what this is a good little system for doing something like that. But you can also this uses a Vector Nav 300. Just to tell you a little bit about the INSs inside here. I got a couple minutes. This uses a Vector Nav 300, which has a L1 only receiver in it. So basically, it's using SBAS. If you know what that means, basically your geopositioning accuracy is poor. It's like 50 centimeters on a good day. Okay, but that's fine for a law enforcement scene. A crime scene, they just want to know how far apart the cars were. That comes out really good, but the absolute positioning, not so good. This guy here, it can have the Novatel, any one of the smaller Novatels inside of it. It can have the Trimble APX15 inside of it. There's a bunch of different INSs that we use inside here. It all depends on, you know, your preference and what you need. I mean, a lot of them perform at the same level, but for instance, if you're familiar with the pod software from Trimble, you're going to want to stick with Trimble. And I agree you should, because you've already worked out all the kinks, you're familiar with how to do it. Don't rock the boat and try to learn something else. Plus, you've already bought the software, so don't buy it again. So that's kind of how we've gone with this. We try to target the market because we know that everybody has their preferences one way or another. Lots of applications. I'm sure you guys can come up with applications I wouldn't even dream of, although I've had a lot of them come at me. I would have never dreamed about mapping maple syrup lines, okay? I grew up and even tapped maple trees, but I never would have thought about mapping them for that. But there's just all kinds of weird things. But that's what I had to present. If you have any questions, this guy right here will answer them. No, that's it, though. So if you have any questions, go ahead. Look at that. Yes. You go to our website, LiDARUSA.com, and you'll see them on their sample data. Mm-hmm. Yep. Probably want to have you send it to us so we can put it together so you don't have to do that. Nothing like soldering stuff, and when you put it to work and you go, a little bit of smoke to really ruin a person's day. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, see? There you go. When we first started doing this, so we bought a $100,000 INS from Novatel. It has virtually no protection. They're assuming you know what you're doing. Man, you think a lot before you turn that power on to it. It's scary. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you very much.